Hello everyone, friends. Today, we're going to talk about a very unusual incident, a fight on Mount Everest between Sherpas and climbers. What happened? What caused the conflict? And who's to blame? Today, we'll try to figure it out. But before I start the story, I want to say thank you to those who support me by subscribing to the channel, leaving comments, and liking the videos. If you also like what I do and want to support me, you can do so. Now please, give this video a thumbs up, and let's dive into our story. Let's start, as usual, from the beginning. The official version goes like this. Around 8 a.m. on April 27, 2013, Simone Morrow, Yuli Steck, and Jonathan Griffith left the base camp heading for the second high-altitude camp, located around 7,000 meters on the west face of Lhotse. This is a standard route on Everest, and at the same time, a team of experienced Sherpas was preparing ropes on the wall and asked the climbers not to use their ropes temporarily. The trio of climbers, without objection, climbed around 50 meters higher without using these ropes. All three were extremely experienced, and Simone Morrow was a true legend of mountaineering, having climbed Annapurna with Bukriv. It was a highly professional team with worldwide recognition. When the climbers approached the height where their tent was set up, they had to cross the ropes being laid by the Sherpas. Without this, they couldn't reach the camp. The ropes stretched about 20 meters on either side of the tent. They decided to cross the ropes at the point where 4 Sherpas were working. The main group of Sherpas did not see this moment and was observing the team's work. The climbers did not interfere and did not disrupt the process. It's important to note, they were not roped together, walked one by one, did not touch the ropes, and passed below the area where the Sherpas were working, meaning they could not have triggered an avalanche or dropped ice on them. Jonathan Griffith was the first to cross. When he crossed the ropes, Yuli Steck was about 15 meters behind him. At that moment, Yuli noticed the leader of the Sherpas. They started shouting and threatening with ice axes. The conflict continued into the second camp and turned into a fight, where the climbers were beaten with fists and feet and threatened with death. What triggered such aggression? It remains unclear. Simone Morrow, in an interview, stated, "We were climbing quickly, didn't bother anyone, didn't use the ropes. When we approached the tent, we didn't even look up. It was a cold and windy day. We didn't interfere with anyone." He hinted that the Sherpas were upset that the climbers didn't use their services and ropes, meaning the Sherpas were losing potential income. According to him, commercial interests might have provoked their hostility. When the conflict started, the climbers offered to help by installing the ropes. Yuli even climbed 260 meters and installed a rope, essentially doing part of the Sherpas' work. This may have hurt their pride. As a result, a dispute with 3 or 4 Sherpas turned into an aggressive scuffle with 100 people in the second camp. The climbers were beaten with hands and feet. Stones were thrown at them, ice axes were shaken in their faces, and they were threatened with death. Simone Morrow recalls, "It was a miracle that we survived. Yuli was hit with a stone in the face, he was bleeding. I was beaten for a long time. We owe our lives to 4 climbers." The first to rush to their defense was American Melissa Arno, followed by a Sherpa named Panuru, then American guide Greg. Eventually, the climbers were forced to flee. Their expedition was ruined, meaning they lost money, sponsors, and months of preparation. Simone Morrow now lives in Nepal and works as a helicopter rescue pilot, so he regularly interacts with those very Sherpas. But what if things were different? Let's hear the Sherpa side. International mountain guide, 2-time Everest summiter, 30-year-old Tashi Sherpa was part of the same team that was laying the ropes. "We decided that no one would ascend this slope until we finished our work. We knew the climbers might go to the second camp for acclimatization, but laying ropes is a very difficult and dangerous task. So we strictly warned everyone, do not go higher than the camp." Tashi's team had been working at 6,700 meters since early morning on April 27th. At some point, They noticed 3 foreign climbers ascending. All the Sherpas were on the same radio frequency, and those higher up immediately contacted those lower down to stop the ascent. But the climbers didn't stop. None of the Sherpas knew who they were. Later, it turned out to be Simone Morrow, Uli Steck, and Jonathan Griffith. They said, "We won't interfere, we just want to create a new route to the summit of Everest." The Sherpas allowed them to continue. By that time, the leading group had already reached 7,000 meters. The goal was to reach Camp 3. But when the foreigners passed above the lead Sherpa, Nima, a chunk of ice fell from under their feet. It hit one of the Sherpas working for a commercial expedition. His face was bruised. Earlier, it was said that the injury occurred from a fall. But the Sherpas claim the injury was from being hit by the ice. Whether it was intentional or accidental remains unknown. But this became the trigger for the conflict. Sherpa leader Mountaineers said, "Further work is too dangerous. We are going down." The Sherpas complied. This was reported to Coordinator Gregar, head of the international expedition. After descending, Mountaineers approached Simone Morrow and began insulting him. "How much more do we have to pay you?" Uli Steck approached as well and started pushing. This was dangerous. Such movements on a steep slope could have led to tragedy. One of the Sherpas, Karmasorki, stood up to defend his leader. The Sherpas began descending. A real fight was brewing, with ice axes. Tashi Sherpa says, "I became scared. We quickly went down to figure out what happened and why the climbers ignored our warnings. Around 2 p.m., they returned to the second camp. Everyone already knew a conflict had occurred from the radios. The Sherpas were upset and felt offended. They decided to speak with the 3 climbers and find out why they ignored the warnings. Greg agreed to negotiate. The Sherpas demanded that all 3 apologize. Many of them were especially angry at Simone Morrow. Everyone knew he was a helicopter rescue pilot, but almost no one had ever seen him. They approached his tent. Another climber, Marty Schmidt, came out and shouted, "What are you doing here?" Simone himself came out. "I'm Simone Morrow. What do you need?" A fight broke out. The Sherpas, according to their version, were forced to defend themselves. But who started the scuffle? It remains unclear. And here's an important point. From the Sherpas' account, the start of the fight disappears. They immediately jump to the part where they begin beating the climbers, with hands, feet, throwing stones. Simone Morrow was forced to apologize on his knees and was beaten with feet. One Sherpa later says, "He ran away, but then he came back and began apologizing. I don't know who hit him. Maybe it wasn't even a blow, but a push." The climbers later publicly stated that 100 people attacked them and tried to kill them. The Sherpas deny this. If we wanted to kill them, would they be alive now? The Sherpas emphasize that they have always respected the climbers. Their relationships with them were based on trust. But this time, something broke. Earlier, the Sherpas were uneducated, endured humiliation. But now they are different. And more, they are speaking up for themselves. At the same time, the Sherpas are not the governing authority on the mountain. Why should everyone obey them? Essentially, the climbers didn't interfere with the work. Even if snow fell from their feet, it's the mountains, and that happens. Even their Sherpa comrade later said that there were no visible injuries from the foreigners. None of the injured parties later confirmed the injuries from the foreigners. This raises questions. So what was the real reason for the conflict? Perhaps several factors. First, the climbers disobeyed. And the Sherpas are used to obedience. Second, the climbers went without support. They didn't pay, didn't hire, and that meant the Sherpas were losing money. Third, the Sherpas have long stopped being barefoot shepherds. They earn good money, many of them have good education. They speak several languages, and they no longer see themselves as second-class people. But they still remain the service personnel for high-altitude expeditions. I think these Western climbers have probably become tiresome to them. It's a vicious circle. If there are no climbers, they'll have to go back to planting potatoes and herding yaks for a couple of dollars a month, instead of the thousands they earn now. Today, the Sherpas are one of the wealthiest ethnic groups in Nepal. But the fact remains, they've become more confident. And this conflict is one manifestation of this newfound confidence. They've started to see themselves as the masters of the mountain and apparently have crossed the line. This, of course, is just my opinion. But even if Simone Moro's team really was to blame and accidentally caused the snow to fall, and I remind you, no Sherpa ever confirmed that they were injured. Still, beating a person who is on their knees and apologizing with a crowd and with feet is too much. One of the participants in these events, climber Jonathan Griffith, commented on the situation like this: "Yes, I want to return. I want to finish my photo project. But I don't feel safe on the south slope of Everest, and I won't feel safe for the near future," Simone added. "I don't think the Sherpas realize how much money goes into these expeditions. And now they don't acknowledge that there is anyone on the mountain except them." You're probably wondering, how did this story end? Well, not really. The Nepalese authorities initiated an investigation. The police came to the Everest base camp. The Sherpas apologized to the climbers, and the climbers apologized to the Sherpas. And as they say, the matter was brushed under the rug to avoid damaging Nepal's reputation and stopping the flow of tourists. This is the story from Everest. Please support this video with a like and a comment, so I can see that you're interested in this topic. Huge thanks to everyone who has already responded and supported me. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I know many watch without subscribing. Check it out, and please subscribe. See you on new peaks.